Alrighty, so here we are in another episode of Modern Revenue Architects with Keith Liscio, who is a master in terms of brokerage on franchise success. So if Keith, if you can give us your insights in terms of your story, who's Keith, and then I'll ask you some questions to go with.
Okay, terrific. So I grew up in a series of small family businesses. When I was a little kid, my dad owned a dry cleaning shop, a liquor store, a meat market. And so from even a very young age, I was always involved in business in some way, shape, or form. As a 5-year-old, I was behind a counter stocking shelves or making change. And I always knew I wanted to be in business for myself, but I thought I wanted to do something bigger, more important. So like many people, I went to college for business. I went to Villanova University and later got an MBA from the Wharton School. And I worked at places like Procter & Gamble and Nabisco and Kraft. And really thought at some point I wanted to be in a corporate career. But even at my earliest days, I always knew I wanted to be in business for myself. So eventually I left that world and started a business. My first business was importing Italian ceramics, which was a really fun business. I got to go to Italy a lot, ate a lot of great food, made a lot of fantastic friends, met some great people, but never really made any serious money in that business. And so somewhere along the line, I decided, I've had 2 young kids at the time, college looming and big expenses coming my way. I needed to get back into a more corporate environment where I could make more money. And so I went to interview for a corporate marketing job at a recruiting agency. It was actually an office of Management Recruiters International. MRI is a franchise business, ironically. In fact, if somebody wanted to go into the recruiting business, I could help them buy an MRI franchise. But at the end of that interview, they said, we think our client would really like you, Keith, but we think you'd be better served working here with us. And one thing led to another, and I became an executive recruiter. And that's what I did for the bulk of my professional career. I worked for a few years for them. Then I struck out on my own. I started my own firm. And about 5 years ago or so, I sold my interest in the firm and actually even considered retiring. But I just felt it was too soon for me to do that. And I started evaluating franchise businesses. I thought I wanted to buy a franchise. In the course of doing my franchise due diligence, I sort of stumbled into this area of franchise brokerage. To be very honest, Luis, I didn't even know that this was a thing. But as someone who'd been an executive recruiter for more than 20 years, it was a great match for my particular skill set. And so for somebody like me who's worked in small family businesses, the corporate environment, franchises, in addition to MRI, I also flipped burgers at McDonald's in college. And even back then, I recognized the value of a franchise system. The standard operating procedures, the marketing, the support, the training. It's really something interesting. And so I feel like in many ways, because I've seen business from so many angles, I can help people coming from a variety of backgrounds to find exactly the right franchise business for them. And that's what my business is.
Love it. So let's imagine a scenario, which is obviously when you're curious about a business, sometimes the first thing you do is you don't know what you don't know, and one thing that could be a very possible next step is going into a franchise fair or whatever. So I go to a franchise fair and I see all this opportunity, but then sometimes you finish as you started, like clueless. You don't know, like how could you know the best match for you as an entrepreneur if you don't have done, you have not have elaborated into which one is my avenue, or why am I keen into this? If it's something around trades, or if it's something about a restaurant or whatever. So it could be that you're keen into something, but there should be more than those very evident items for me to be matching into a franchise. So for someone looking or watching our episode, what could you say? Because you have a very specific skill set to knowing exactly how to match an entrepreneur into a franchise opportunity. And one thing that struck to me when I saw your LinkedIn profile is I uncovered blue ocean franchises which are highly profitable. But obviously it will be highly profitable for Luis, but maybe it's not going to be the same thing for Lilia or the same thing for Jamie and so on. So how's your process to match the entrepreneur with the perfect franchise opportunity?
Yeah, that's a great question, because most people don't understand very much about franchising. When they think of franchising, they think of things like McDonald's or Subway. And while I certainly have a lot of quick serve restaurants in my portfolio, I've got, hundreds and hundreds of choices that span 37 different categories of business, everything from advertising businesses to vending machines and everything in between. It's not uncommon that people come to me because, they see a line out the door of, a local coffee shop, or they really like a chicken sandwich at one kind of place, and they think that's the business I want to be in. But that's not really the best way to do it. And if you go to, say, a franchise fair, while that's a great opportunity to see lots of different businesses, when you're talking to anybody at a franchise fair, their main goal is selling you that franchise. They're not necessarily looking out for your best interest. They're just looking to sell one more of their franchise. What I do is completely different. I start with a candidate-centered approach. So I want to get to know the person that I'm talking with. Why are they interested in starting a business of their own? What kind of experience do they have? And then I also offer them something called an entrepreneurial assessment. So this is, it's almost like a personality profile that's been developed specifically for the franchise industry. And right away, it'll produce a report in 10 or 15 minutes. They fill out a form online, and it will show me their values, their preferred working environment, their sales orientation, and a lot more. But most specifically, I have a back-end system that will match their specific profile to businesses where people with that profile have already been successful. So we take this giant universe of franchises and narrow it down to a much, much smaller subset where they could be successful. And then additionally, I will go through with each and every candidate those 37 franchise categories and get a sense of the kinds of businesses that interest them. Because just because they can do something doesn't necessarily mean that's the thing they should do, or that's the thing they'll find interesting to do. I find when people, have a strong interest in a business, can develop a passion for it, they're much more likely to succeed. So I want to kind of learn more about them to figure out which categories are best. And then I do the research on their behalf. They don't need to see 500 franchises. They need to see 5 that are a good fit for them. So usually I put together a presentation, and often, it's usually 6 to 8 really targeted options that are available in their area, which meet their financial requirements, their time commitment, and their interest level. And from that point, if they see things that they like, I introduce them to my franchise partners and help guide them through the process.
Nice. So let's play this out. Imagine, let's say somebody, and there's the ROI and there's a likelihood of achievement, which is one of the key aspects that you're mentioning. So likelihood of achievement, that's a big keyword. So if I want to do this myself, and I say, oh, yeah, I might want to do this one, there's 2 options. I can maybe be scared and not do it, and then I lose an opportunity of doing what I wanted to do because I'm just limiting myself on taking action because I don't know enough. And 2, I jump into the boat and I say, yes, this is the opportunity. But doing it myself, the likelihood of achievement when it comes to jumping into that might be less, or I should say, will be less if they work with you. Just because the fact of you knowing, even sometimes like you have a list of franchisees that they don't even know that it exists because they it's just around them, but they haven't done enough research. But you have everything. So I think that being said, the business model is fantastic. So because right now, if you think about opening a franchise, like the investment is huge, the risk, it's medium high, and you are making them pairing with other success cases just like them, that they have been successful, and even you can introduce them to those people that have been successful as on top of everything you're doing, so that they ensure if they do exactly what these guys did on this area, there's no way you will fail, because you just need to follow the framework and you will make it happen. So I wanted to add this with you, and if you agree with, that's the way to go.
Yeah, there's a lot that you said there that I'd like to unpack. So, franchising can be very expensive, but we have options that range from under $50,000 all in to over $10 million. And so a big part of, what we're looking for is something that's going to fit the candidate's financial capabilities. And more expensive doesn't always mean more profitable. So as an example, people are often drawn to quick serve restaurants because they see them, they know them. That's what they think about franchising. But it's not uncommon to spend $1 million to open a quick serve restaurant. And the benefit of quick serve restaurants is, you might be doing $1 million or more a year in volume. So they're very high volume businesses, but the margins are kind of slim because, you've got a lot of debt service, you've got a lot of employees, you've got to buy a lot of equipment, there's advertising. So, you're looking at a large investment with a large gross sales number, but also relatively slim margins. On the other hand, we have other businesses like home service businesses. So this is, very essential businesses, boring businesses that, people need every day, but aren't necessarily exciting. Things like painting or window washing or HVAC, plumbing, electrical, things like that. People really need these. And there is no brick and mortar component. So unlike a quick serve restaurant, you don't have to build out a whole restaurant with a lot of equipment. You can start with one van on the road with one crew. So it's often the startup costs are much, much lower and the profit margins are much, much higher. So even though you're investing less, you could actually return more. So these are the things I want people to kind of think about and understand. And also, we have to look in their local market. In some markets, there may be a dozen painting franchises that are already, competing with each other, but there may be something else that's not. So, we want to kind of look at that market, and then I want to introduce them to several different brands, often in several different categories, so they can evaluate one opportunity against another. And in addition to providing, the financial information, we want them to really understand what the training is going to be like, what the support's going to be like. And a key part of the process of selecting a franchise is something called validation, where they'll actually get to meet and talk to owners of that franchise. So while the franchise itself is prevented by federal law from making any specific earnings claim, so they can't say, well, if you buy this franchise, you're going to make X amount per year. You can talk to the franchisees and they'll tell you exactly what they're making. They'll tell you how long it took them to break even. They'll tell you what kind of support they get from the central office, if the training is good, if they would do this again. These are really, really key discussions. And these are things that you can't get if you're just doing internet research. You really need to go through the process. You need to work with somebody like me that will help guide you through it and help you compare and contrast your different options.
Beautiful. And then the other side of the coin, someone will ask, hey, like, I don't want to pay my franchisee fee plus Keith's you know where I'm going with this, because that's something that people might think, hey, like, it's just too much, like, whatever, because Keith seems amazing and I would like to have his expertise, but he's going to be too expensive. So it's the expenses that they will have to put in is zero. Yeah.
Well, that's probably one of the best things about working with me is that there is no fee for my service. I'm a broker, so very much like a real estate transaction. Yeah. At the end of the process, if you end up being awarded a franchise and going into business, my franchise partner will pay me a fee, but you never pay any fee for my service. Now, in being awarded a franchise, yes, there is a franchise fee and there is ongoing royalties. So, when you're buying a franchise, you're essentially buying a business in a box. So you're getting a proven system that's already been demonstrated to be successful in other parts of the country. And for your franchise fee, you're buying the right to bring that business to your local community, get the training and support that you need, all the standard operating procedures, and a partner with a vested interest in your success. And so on an ongoing basis, while you do have to pay a royalty or a percentage of your gross sales to the franchisor does have a vested interest in your success. So they want, quite selfishly, they want to maximize their royalties. So they want to do everything they can to make you as successful as possible, make you do as much business as possible, so they get a bigger piece of the pie as well.
Yeah. So a good track record is something that to see. Obviously, you have all the knowledge. But it doesn't hurt to pay royalty if I'm getting the best SOPs, I'm getting the best help possible, some of the latest marketing programs that have helped in other locations, and then I get the same innovation as well with AI and whatnot. Something you mentioned in terms of the window washing, the HVAC, all the services. I think it's important to say, when we're talking about needs and wants, in our experience when running the campaigns for these types of businesses, it's not the same the same of urgency of someone searching for basement flooding than a restaurant near me, because restaurant near me it's a want. Maybe I want to book something.
Yeah, you're hungry, you want to go to dinner, you eat it right now.
Yeah, exactly. And for the other types of services, like the flooding in my basement or whatever, like an emergency type of thing, I'm gonna pick up the phone.
Restoration services.
And I need to have somebody now, so I don't have the luxury of not taking action immediately. So that's just to backing up what you said. I just took notes here. For the boring businesses, they might be boring, but at the same time super profitable, because people need it, and they are. If you appear at the top on the page, oh boy, like you get the job. You answer the phone, you book you send your crew. They will do. It's not like, oh, I'm this problem. Oh, let me think about if I want you to fix my leaky basement. Like, it's not gonna happen. They have to take action, and you're the one solving that problem for them.
And that's one of the things that the franchises really excel in too, is that they have really sophisticated sales and marketing techniques. So, their SEO is usually first rate. So when you're looking for a business in a specific category, often the franchise, because they may have hundreds of units around the country, they'll come up number one in your area. And for some of those things, like, again, restoration services is a good one, or HVAC, your air conditioner's broken, it's 95 degrees out. You're going to call the first person that comes up in the search, because and you're going to keep calling until you get somebody that answers the phone. One of the things another thing that separates franchises from some of these mom and pop businesses is they often have professional call centers. So when you call that 800 number, you're going to get somebody that really understands your needs and will book an appointment that day for you. Often, we call the competition for a lot of these home service businesses chuck in a truck. So whatever the service is, whether it's, painting or window washing, HVAC, Chuck is out there doing the work himself. He's really good at it, does a great job. A lot of his business is word of mouth, a lot of referrals. But when he's busy, he doesn't even answer the phone. So, you may leave a message. Chuck may get back to you in a week or not at all. Whereas with a franchise, you've got a very professional intake system. So your call will be answered. You will be addressed in quick and time efficient manner.
Exactly. 100%. So they might have like a 24/7 line to cater for all these different calls and dispatch, and just send the job your way depending on the location. So 100%. And yes, like the truck in the truck guy would not be able to have a call center and would not be able to answer the phone and wait and like, if they're on their truck, or if they're fixing someone, like an auto repair, if they are whatever those kind of things, trades or what have you, they are actually doing the work and they are not
Yes.
answering the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. If the guy is up under the car changing somebody's oil, he's going to let the phone ring. Whereas the franchise, there's going to be somebody dedicated to answering that phone and getting you an appointment to get in there.
Yeah. And it's part of the SOPs. Like if you want to be successful, even if they don't provide for the 24/7 kind of thing, you have to have someone specifically dedicated to attend this thing. Otherwise, you would not be successful, which is part of the thing. You don't want to learn the hard way that imagine like you're having people calling and everything is there. You're paying for location, you're paying for this, that, and then you're losing opportunities and you're losing jobs because of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and, while there are lots of successful independent businesses out there, and my hat's off to all of them, sometimes people think, well, maybe I'll just start my own business, or maybe I'll buy an existing business instead of a franchise. But 80% of all independent business startups in the US fail within 5 years. With franchising, it's the opposite. 80% are still in business after 5 years. Now, why is that? Because what you're paying for with that franchise fee is an established system, a system that already worked. It's already proven. They've laid out the roadmap for you. You just have to follow the directions, and success can be yours.
And I think one statement that I saw on one of your posts is like, because you also have the option of getting a business that is already running. So first of all, you don't necessarily know exactly how to read all the finances in that business, and maybe if you do, there's many implications. There's the marketing, there's the dependency of the owner. If the owner goes away, they might have good numbers, but maybe it's just all referrals. Maybe it's just people that are the franchise model. Make sure that it doesn't depend on the owner because it's a franchise. So your statement on buying an independent business is like buying an airplane in mid-flight. You don't know what's going to happen if you don't do it properly. Maybe it was taking a good course, but the pilot left. So it's up to you.
If you know how to fly a plane, and you go up for a test drive with the owner of that plane, and you can kind of understand everything that's happening, perfect. But at some point, the pilot's going to parachute out, and you've got to land that thing yourself, and you've got to take off the next day yourself. With a franchise, the person next to you, the co-pilot, is somebody that's already experienced in that business. They're going to show you everything you need to know to land that plane successfully, take off, and operate that business on a regular basis. So you'll always have support. And the other thing you mentioned, in many times, and I've seen this over and over, people buy an independent business and they think they're buying, a business that's up and running and successful, and just a matter of, putting somebody else in the owner's seat. Well, sometimes that owner has established relationships that go back decades. Once he's gone, those relationships are gone too. So it's not uncommon at all that even with successful businesses with good numbers, once the ownership changes, there's usually a transition period where there's some kind of a drop off because the relationship is with the owner and not necessarily with the business.
Yeah, 100%. With that, Mr. Keith, I will thank you for the time that you spent with us today. It was an honor to get this content and the insights that you provided. We will meet again, hopefully, maybe in the future, so that we can give other types of advices in this same blue ocean strategy. Is there anything else you want to close with?
No, the honor is really all mine, Luis, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you. And I hope if people have questions about franchising, they can look me up on LinkedIn or my website, ExcelsiorFranchiseCenter.com. My name is Keith Liscio, and I'd love to be of service if people have an interest in starting a business on their own.
Thank you very much. And yes, all the links are at the bottom in the description of the podcast episode, and we will share everything with the listeners and viewers. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you. I really appreciate it.